Great. I'm excited to have you guys a part of this video. We're going to be talking about inflation, right? The overall gist of it is who's going to be benefiting from it, how are you going to be choosing to benefit from it, and then how is it going to affect you one way or the other. So I'm excited, and let's jump right into it. Inflation, what folks don't see is like inflation is happening all the time, right? It never stops. The average inflation rate that we've been having is about 3% year over year, right? My benchmark of when I remember this is I used to go to the Family Dollar in Orem, and we'd go there and I'd buy my Pringles chips. They were delicious. It was the cheddar ones. Cheddar was the only flavor that mattered. And I could go there at Family Dollar and I could get some of those for about 50 cents. And it was a steal. And then I could, maybe it was 75. But it was cheaper. Right now they're almost like $2, which is why I don't buy those Pringles chips anymore. And then the Mentos, those were always good than just the regular Mentos. Those were, I think they were 50 cents. And now they're closer to $1, right? Which makes sense. That was probably 10, 11 years ago. Okay, one more thing. I just have to mention this. I'm reminiscing, and you guys can join me in there. I'd also buy the Muddy Buddies, or not the Muddy Buddies, the Buddy Bars. Those were delicious. They're peanut butter, chocolate, and then the wafer. The point is, they were delicious. And inflation started taking place there, right? So those Buddy Bars back then, I think you get them for like 75 cents. So it was a decent amount cheaper. And now it's tough to find them for less than $1.50, $2. And just on those goods started going up in price, right? That's just inflation. It's natural. It happens little by little. And a lot of times we don't end up noticing it. And that's where it takes place. And that's where we start seeing its effects. But this is a little bit, now mentioning a little bit of speculation, but I think I'm pretty close. The government just printed a few $1 trillion. For those who don't know, that's a lot of money. As you go through on that, those $3 trillion need to come from somewhere, right? And where are they going to come from without necessarily having to raise tons of taxes, which neither side of the aisle really wants to do? And come in and be known as the big bad wolf there, right? So I think what we're going to see is minimum wage rise. Minimum wage has been pretty close to the same for a number of years. It's been teetering in the 7s for, I don't know, I think it's been the last 15, 20 years. So it's been a long time where it's been pretty low there. And as inflation has gone up 3% year over year, and honestly, I think we've been a little higher than that. But just on average, it's been 3% year over year. Over the last 10 years, that's 30%, right? So you think that the wages would go up 30%. But that hasn't been the case. So, and it hasn't been the case for quite a while. So what I think we're going to see take place is one side of the aisle is teetering more for this. The other side, not as much, but I think there's coming a little more of an acceptance there. And I think overall there's not going to be any other option, is to compensate for the amount of debt that we have. We're going to go and see more inflation taking place. One of the fastest ways for that to take place is by raising the minimum wage, right? We're in I think it's I'm not sure if it's 7.25 or 7, whatever it is, it's in the low 7s. And there's a big push for it to be at $15 an hour, which is more than double what it is right now. So if that takes place, just logically, basic economy, right, it's going to cost twice as much money for Doritos to deliver your Doritos, right? It's going to cost twice as much money for everyone to do what they need to do, because that human capital is still there, and they still need to compensate those folks. And the businesses aren't just going to say, well, no darn, I just have to pay all my employees a whole lot more, and now I don't have any profit. No, right? Logically, they're going to raise their prices, as will everyone else, right? And one of those things that gets raised as time goes forward is rents. Rents get raised. What doesn't get raised is your mortgage, right? What will get raised is your taxes and your insurance, but your fixed principal and interest which most folks are on a 30-year amortization schedule. So that's not going anywhere. That payment is going to stay the same, whereas all the other things are going up. So the few things that will maintain their value are things that are more liquid. So some of those businesses will ride that inflation cycle very well, and some of them won't. Some of them, that's going to beat up on them pretty hard. They're not going to be able to adapt, and they're going to get hit. So I think we'll see another dip take place throughout that time frame. But what will do well, again, in my opinion, is housing. Who overall benefits from inflation? It depends on what side you're on, right? But the folks who have more assets, they're going to ride that, right? Because those assets are going to go up in value, whereas most of their payments are fixed. So, I mean, fixed payment, assets going up in value, rents going up for those things, better cash flow for them, and then a better profit for them. Who does it hurt? It hurts the folks who don't have their money necessarily in the economy. If you have your money just saved up in the bank and it's not doing anything really there, then again, both sides of the aisle is going to say, hey, we need to do something to fix this. What are we going to do? And then, again, if minimum wage raises, then that money is just going to lose value. It's going to be sitting there. The interest rates that it's been receiving for the last who knows how many years haven't been close to that, even that 3%. So that your money is sitting in the bank, it's losing value, right? And that's kind of sucks to say. It's kind of scary to say because we've always been taught to save, save, save. And I do believe there's a value in keeping reserve funds. But if you just have a bunch of money saved up in the bank where it's not doing anything for you, when inflation hits and it hits that wave where it comes up, that's going to hurt the folks who just have their money there, not in the economy, not in things that are going to go up on that wave, right? And ultimately, it depends on where you want to be. Me, personally, I mean, this year we'll probably purchase a fourplex, a triplex, and a house. Take advantage of ridiculously low interest rates, historically low interest rates. Buy those properties, they'll be able to cash flow right from the get-go. That's without raising rents, that's without anything like that. They're just going to be cash flowing properties. As rents go up and time goes up, then those properties continue to do better. But as minimum wage goes up and the cost of everything goes up, logically rent's going to continue to go up. And as rent continues to go up, those properties are going to do better for me. And, I'm going to be a happy camper, right? And I'm going to continue doing that cycle. And what I talked about in the other video that we just did, that talked about the foreclosures, we talked a little bit about some of the other factors that contributed to the Utah housing market continuing to grow, regardless of inflation. So between all those factors, between inflation, real estate's a pretty darn good place to be. And it just depends on where you're at and where you want to be. Again, if you don't have any of your money in places that are going to ride the wave pretty well, then your money is going to continue to lose its value, and it's going to be a little scary place to be, right? So this might take some time to implement, but if they double minimum wage, essentially the dollar is going to half itself in value, right? It's not going to be day in, day out. It might take a couple years for that to take place, but that's the essential gist of how that works, right? So if your money halves itself in value, it's much better to have it in a place where that halving actually works in your favor than not in your favor. So the question is, where is it that you want to be on the spectrum? The people who don't have their money in assets that are going to be growing and be working for them are not going to be in a happy place. And I wish I could say otherwise, and I wish I could say I tend to be a little more optimistic, but I just don't see it being any other way. And I don't see the government doing anything to curb that. That's going to be mutually beneficial for everyone. Or you can be on the other side of things, have those assets working for you and have that money continue to work for you. That's where I choose to be, and hopefully I have a couple other folks join me on that journey. But inflation is coming. It's here to stay. Again, it just comes down to what you want to do with it. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any questions, or even if you want to debate about it, if you disagree where I'm at, I would love to talk about it. Feel free to put it in the comments or DM me, whatever you're most comfortable about. But I'd love to talk about those items and see where everything's at. Again, thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.